I'd hate to give you the wrong impression with what I'm about to say. Patty and I have actually looked forward to this day for some time. And of course, it's not that we wanted to lose Mom or that we didn't love her, but it's rather the fact that over the years she's given us so much damn funny material to work with that it's a bit hard to curb our enthusiasm for sharing it. Well, the preceding speakers did an awfully good job of offering some of Mom's more notable and embarrassing stories, so that leaves it to me to wrap things up by being the mature, dignified, and respectful eulogist for this solemn occasion. And Patty's down here rolling her eyes. Mom and Dad loved watching sports, and they usually had an event on TV day or night, and almost always had a friendly wager on the line. And they had two little ceramic cups that they got in Hawaii, labeled Makua Hini for Mom and Makua Kane for Dad. And the money just went back and forth between the cups with every win or loss, because there were probably never more than $10 in either cup, because neither one was all that good at picking their teams or their players, but it kept them entertained. So as has been mentioned, the sport they loved most was golf. And they had their own golfing buddies and played in their respective men's and women's leagues, but they played together just as much as they did with other people. And Mom was particularly happy about the fact that she could beat Dad about half the time. So one of the things I'm thankful for is that they got me started golfing fairly young and gave me a lifelong sport to enjoy. And even though Mom eventually became the high school golf coach, it was Dad who mostly taught me how to play. But it was Mom who taught me how to approach the game and always make it enjoyable, even though my body can't twist and swing like it used to. And what she taught me was to take golf seriously, but not take myself seriously. And in other words, know the rules, practice, try to be the best you can be, but whether you hit a good shot or a bad one, you win your match or you go down in flames, don't be full of yourself and don't get down on yourself. Be able to laugh at yourself. And the reason I'm sharing this is because that's how Mom lived all aspects of her life. And I think she saw her role in life in several very distinct ways. She was a daughter and a doting sister. She was a U of I alum and a sorority girl. She was a wife and a mother, obviously. She was a friend and active community member. And as much as anything, she was a teacher. And Mom took all those roles seriously, but she never took herself seriously. And she knew that we're all imperfect creatures and understood the healing power of being able to laugh at our imperfections, to laugh at life. And this philosophy was most evident in the classroom. She was a teacher's teacher, and her students respected her. And so from those early days as Miss Jeanie on Romper Room, she always took teaching seriously, and she was uniquely successful at her craft. And make no mistake, her students know that Mrs. Snow was not someone you wanted to mess with, but they also knew that she deeply cared about them and wanted to help them succeed. And Mom was a stickler for language, often correcting people's word choice or grammar in a nice way, sort of. And a favorite admonition was when someone would interchange the words lay and lie, pointing out that you lay an object down while you yourself lie down. And she got a lot of use out of that one this past year while she was living at Palmerell Place, because staff would often encourage her to lay down, and she'd just scowl at them and say, "No, it's lie down." And she took great pleasure in that. When I was 17, the Armed Services were recruiting me along with every other high school senior. And I told an Army recruiter that I didn't want to join the military. And he in turn sent me a long rambling letter castigating my decision and calling me unpatriotic, and Mom was furious about that letter. So she took out her red teacher's pen and corrected every misspelled word, punctuation mark, and grammar faux pas. It was a bloodbath. She mailed it back, and the recruiter never called me again. And I don't know if it's something she learned in the School of Education or in the psychology classes she took, or was just an innate ability. But Mom understood the power and the art of surprise. And long before there was anything like Shock Talk Radio, Mom was a PG-13 rated Howard Stern. And she knew that if you could take somebody out of their comfort zone, maybe get them to giggle, you had a better chance of gaining their attention. And she felt that the best way to break down barriers with students and other people in general was through silly, lighthearted, self-deprecating humor. She knocked herself down to raise her students and others up. And she wore funny outfits and sang silly songs and told slightly off-color jokes. And oftentimes just made a damn fool of herself. But in doing so, she made learning and life fun. Now, everyone knows about Mom's sense of humor, but I think her genius was in her sense of comedic timing. And she knew when it was most appropriate, or more often the case, inappropriate, to pull one of her stunts. She'd catch you off guard with something goofy or unexpected, and you just never knew what to expect. She might be in a crowded theater and start laughing or singing. She might be at church, sitting at her organ, and catch your eye and do something a little bit subtle to try to get you to start to laugh during the service. And she did that to me all the time when I was an altar boy. She might be at some sort of formal event and crack a dirty joke at her table, just loud enough for the people at her table to hear. She might be at one of the cocktail parties that she and Dad often held at her house, and come out of the bedroom in some horrible outfit just to embarrass Patty and me. Now, of course, and that was Mom. She was hilarious. Now, of course, she worked in the English department at Burley High, and she loved literature of all kinds. When I was fairly young, she introduced me to the works of Robert Service, who was a famous poet at the end of the 20th century. And he was famous for these epic ballads about rough and tumble life in the cold, harsh Yukon Territory. And they had great titles such as The Cremation of Sam McGee, and The Ballad of the Iceworm Cocktail. But my all-time favorite Robert Service poem was a much shorter and more introspective verse. And the reason it's one of my favorites is that it sums up Mom's life perfectly. And I'd like to share it with you now. And it's titled simply, Laughter. I laugh at life. Its antics make for me a giddy game, where only foolish fellows take themselves with solemn aim. I laugh at pomp and vanity, at riches, rank, and pride, at social inanity, at swagger, swank, and side, at poets, pastry cooks, and kings, at folks sublime and small, who fuss about 1,000 things that matter not at all, at those who dream of name and fame, at those who scheme for pelf. But best of all, the laughing game is laughing at myself. Some poet chap had labeled man the noblest work of God. I see myself a charlatan, a humbug, and a fraud. Yea, spite of show and shallow wit and sentimental drool, I know myself a hypocrite, a coward, and a fool. And though I kick myself with glee profoundly on the pants, I'm little worse, it seems to me, than other human ants. For if you probe your private mind, impervious to shame, O gentle reader, you may find you're much about the same. Then let us mock with ancient mirth this comic, cosmic plan. The stars are laughing at the earth. God's greatest joke is man. For laughter is a buckler bright, and scorn a shining spear. So let us laugh with all our might at folly, fraud, and fear. Yet on our sorry selves be spent our most sardonic glee. Oh, don't pay life the compliment to take it seriously. For he who can himself despise, be surgeon to the bone, may win to worth in others' eyes, to wisdom in his own. Robert Service. If you want to pay homage to Mom's life, I have a challenge for you. Someday when you're walking down the street, or maybe out for a nice dinner, or at the at the aisle at the grocery store, catch some. When you have their attention, do something a little quirky. Do something a little odd and unexpected. Do something slightly embarrassing. And when they cock their head and give you a funny stare, look them in the eye, wink, give them a grin, and say, "That one's for Jeanie." Okay. So again, our family wants to thank you for coming to celebrate Mom's life. But the party's just begun. Just like we did for Dad when he passed, we're having an old-fashioned wake, probably politically incorrect, for Mom this afternoon. It's not going to be a maudlin event like this ceremony. It's a chance to laugh and tell stories and have a toast or two. And you're all invited. It'll be at Maury's Steakhouse beginning at 4 and go till about 7. To be perfectly candid, I had a thought of doing something like I read about a few years ago, where an elderly lady in New Orleans left instructions for her wake that she was to be embalmed and poised, sitting regally in an armchair with a cigar in one hand and a martini in the other, just joyfully watching the festivities. That would be so perfect for Mom. And the saner people in my family prevailed, so you can rest assured you can come to the wake and not risk having nightmares tonight. And just one final note, to honor Mom, we've set up the Jeanie Snow Scholarship. And this annual scholarship will be for high school seniors who intend to pursue a career in education. To apply, they'll need to write an essay about how a teacher has helped them and influenced their decision to be an educator. And if you're interested in donating to the fund in Mom's honor, there's some information in your program.